Hey, welcome to Here's Out. I'm Paul,
And I'm Patrick.
and we're going to be talking about Salem's Lot, which is
Oh,
it's going to be fun.
yeah, and Paul, the thing we should get out of the way really quickly is Salem's Lot. Everybody has that one film they watched as a kid that really stuck with them, scarred them, changed them, scared them, whatever. It was the Salem's Lot TV miniseries for me. It's the reason that I slept with everywhere I go. I sleep with the curtains closed. Since I was a kid, before watching Salem's Lot, I always liked having the blinds up and being able to see outside. But all it takes is one film with your dead friends coming tapping on your glass, and a few nightmares later for you to walk into every room and close a blind before you sleep.
Yeah, no, I completely get that. I completely get that. It's just, yeah. So we're going to be talking about Salem's Lot. We're going to be comparing essentially the new 2024, which is remake of Salem's Lot, against the original straight to TV kind of mini two-parter from the 1979 version, which is so. We're going to do a comparison thing, but first, me and Patrick are going to give a little bit of what we thought of both movies, kind of thing, and then we'll probably go into the discussion about what, kind of what we thought, and compare them to. So, I'll run first. Yeah, the 1979 one is a cult classic, not cult classic, but it's a cornerstone within the horror kind of library of movies. Which is it's got some great kind of great scenes and stuff that yeah terrified a group of horror people now. Yeah. So some great artistic choices, some amazing choices in kind of where to focus and stuff, on the kind of story. It is based on a Stephen King novel of the same name, kind of thing. Out of all of the movies, I don't out of all of the shows. So there's the 1979 one, the 1987, 2004, and then the 2024 versions. Um, it's as close to the novel as the rest of them, and that's probably as much as I'm going to talk about the novel, kind of thing.
Because none of them
Um,
are that close to the novel, right? As
no,
I haven't read it.
yeah, and we're not talking. We're it's not. This isn't going to be about how faithful they are and stuff like that. Kind of thing. It's more just using the original as kind of a baseline.
Yeah.
Um. So yeah, Salem's Lot for 1979. It's a really good. It's a really good TV, straight to TV horror movie classic kind of thing. If you haven't watched it and you call yourself a horror fan, what are you doing? Kind of thing. Watch it. Runtime's 3 hours. Then Salem's Lot 2024. It's done by the same director as It. I enjoyed it. I enjoy Salem Lot 1979 a lot. You're gonna hear that probably joke a little bit too much. The 2024 one I enjoyed as well. I thought there were I thought there were some artistic choices that were interesting. Kind of thing. Some choices that I wasn't as fond of. Towards the 1979 one. Kind of thing. But I would say that so between the two, 1979 wins, but I wouldn't kick 2024 out of bed, kind of thing. Like I definitely think that they did some great choices. So,
Wouldn't kick it
um,
out of bed. Quite the colloquialism to go with for a horror movie. Fair play.
yeah, that is true. Patrick, what do you think?
Okay. Well, it's easy for me. The 1979, obviously, as I have a obvious bias towards it and away from it. Because again, I did watch it recently. But that was the first time in, you know, 30 something years. Because it stuck with me, it scared me. It is one of those things that, I'm only scared of two things, Salem's Lot and scorpions. And they're both evil buggers. But rewatching it, look, I knew it wasn't going to stand up to today's kind of intense horror mastery. But there is a masterfully okay, and it's 3 hours long if you watch it as a movie, which is the way I would recommend people watch it actually instead of as a two-part miniseries. Um, but it is masterfully unsettling, and because of its uh display format, let's say, because it was going to be going out on TV, it's not a gore fest, but it is a bloody fright fest. So it's unsettling. it's at that perfect level of horror for me where it's all about trying to kind of get you unsettled and make you a bit frightened. And because it has that extra bit of time that a miniseries has over, well, not anymore because 3 hour movies are normal now. Um, I think it's a masterpiece because each of the characters in it, and I'm sure we'll talk about this later, kind of has their place and has a reason in the story. Having said that, I'm not going to say the new one was terrible. I guess my feelings on the new one were that it did some things really well, and that maybe made it worse because then it didn't manage to execute completely. So, they hit this 70s vibe beautifully. I can't complain about their set and their visuals or any of that stuff. There's some lovely shots, some really, really lovely shots, some brilliant actors. But most of all, really what I was left with is, yeah, you couldn't get all those pieces to work well because it wasn't that compelling a story the way they told it. There was no real unsettling air through it all. It felt like it was moving through its motions with the story. It was just kicking along too. Um, and I thought it was one of the most anticlimactic horror films I've ever watched. Its ending is it's I'm not saying it's like the last episode of Lost or anything, but it's going to stick out to me as, oh, that's an insult to a film that could have been so much better. So I'm not saying never watch it. I'm saying it wasn't good enough that it'll ever be talked about in the same way the original was.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I also agree. Um, yeah, so that's what me and Patrick thought about it. We're now going to go into the comparison part where we get to discuss it a little bit more, kind of thing, which will be interesting. So yeah,
I think, Paul, one thing I think people will be surprised, particularly, and Brian's in the chat and he hasn't seen it yet. I think everybody's assuming that this is going to be cash in car crash. And to a certain extent, so was I. I think when we go through some of this, there's an awful lot to like about it. That's actually one of its most disappointing things. And I think that'll show up in the comparison.
that's an that's an interesting point in the sense that like there's I think one of the worst things you can have is potential loss, which I
Mm.
think this film has. But I do think that there's things that it did better than the original kind of thing.
Oh,
But
careful now.
the problem is that I think that the original had a very specific um way. So I think because of its restraints of being a TV movie, I think it had to do certain things the way that it did.
Mm.
So like if it was a movie, I think it would have been able to like do the things that the new one has done. There are some things that I will say are not as good.
Go
Um,
for it.
so okay, so the vibe kind of thing. So what did you think of the vibe between the two? Did you think that it got the 70s vibe? The
I
2024?
think I think they both did in different ways. I think and are we talking vibe and set and everything like that and the background visuals, vehicles, house, are we including
Yeah, kind of.
tell
Yeah.
me anything you don't want me to touch on.
No, the whole 70s vibe. Like,
Well, I think the original nailed it because it was quite close.
yeah.
In its and it had David Soul who was like it's David Soul. Come on, when you've got a Starsky or a Hutch, you've already covered it. Um, and I think there's something that, and I'll get this out of the way really really quickly. Uh, There was a vibe that the original was going for that was just natural. We're doing it of a time that's around prior to now, but around now ish. They weren't going way, way back. So they didn't have this sense of we're trying to recreate the past too much. The new one had to, or not, chose to go and try and set it in a previous period a long way away. So it had a burden to do something through its own choice that the original didn't. And fair play to them. I think they landed that one pretty well. I think every car is always too shiny in these fucking things.
That, yeah.
I don't know why they don't go and dirty up some shop fronts and maybe even just put some dirt on the hubcaps of the odd car here. But as far as just giving us all what our taut memory of the time is, I thought it did okay. It was no way distracting, and sometimes it was quite charming.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think the sets and stuff like that were, and yeah, the overall kind of like vibe and everything like that was very good. I think like, I think that brought a lot to it. I think there was,
Mm.
because I think some of the other ones have tried to like set them in modern day, or like, or I think the 1987 one still tries to put it in the 70s, but I think the 2004 one also tries to bring it into like it's like make it more modern. I'm glad that the 2024 one decided to go with the vibe. I do think it's a lot. I do think it's a lot easier nowadays, other than the 1979 one. But I do think it's a lot easier now with a lot of visual effects and budgets and stuff like that to recapture certain vibes and stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I don't. There was no. I never watched it and was just like, oh, that's that's not very 19.
yeah. No,
Um,
you felt quite settled in it. You were, and because of the time, and I think you're right. Using the time period avoided mobile phones. Just put it simply, it cleans out a lot of the crap that you have to deal with if you try and reset it today. So fair play to them, good choice because they were able to execute it. As far as the rest of that vibe, though, Paul, are we including the tension or anything when we say vibe, or are we just talking about period?
no, I'd say vibe as well. Kind of thing is also kind of more towards the um like yeah, like it is kind of like I know where you're going with, in the sense that the 1979 one is a bit of a slower burn kind of thing with building tension,
Yeah.
which I do get. But I will say that there's an aspect that does kind of ruin that for me in the 1979 one.
Oh, hit me.
It's the what's the name? Uh, is it the Sawyer, and it's the affair, the cheating affair thing.
Oh, the subplot of the real estate agent and his
His assistant.
secretary, and then also the guy who owns the moving truck and stuff. That
Yeah,
whole subplot.
yeah, like that. Like, I'm not bringing it in. I'm just saying that that part ruined tension and stuff like that for me.
Gotcha.
Like
Oh,
that's true, because
gotcha.
I want to stick with kind of, yeah, tension and
Hmm.
vibe stuff. That whole thing kind of like took me out of a lot of vibing and stuff with the tension a little bit,
Ah,
which is sad, because like I think, to me, the tension's very good for the rest of the film. I think there's always this foreboding kind ofness
hmm.
going on, kind of thing. But every time it kind of switched to that part, it kind of took me away from it a little bit.
It was a
Um,
little sexy 70s, yeah.
yeah. Whereas in the 2024 one, there wasn't a lot of tension. It was very there, like, one of the best tension moments is the house shots and stuff like that. Kind of thing.
Which in that original, but on just actually, if you don't mind, just grabbing onto that kind of the subplot of the affair, the real estate agent, the secretary, these side characters being given a lot more focus for, to be fair to what you're saying, for no real good reason. Um, and I think it's one of the things that, you got to also be honest. 3 hour movie versus 2 hour movie. It is a third longer. Excuse me. So things had to go, and it's definitely what I would choose to take out. But the reason it didn't kill the vibe for me in the original is the town of Salem's Lot, and our title character, David Soul's passage through the town and his interaction with people, and the fact that there was this gossipy little, soap opera town where the librarian talked too much and everybody's knowing everybody else's business, and there's this affair going on, and the fact that they used characters like the guy who is owns the removal truck, the drunk guy, that terrible stereotype of an asshole.
Yep.
It
Uh,
didn't add to the tension. It didn't kill it for me, but it definitely built the area for me. It had more time to breathe, and it gave every character more time, including it. It was just great for setups. Like the vibe that was created by these people in a small town are all interlinked. The guys who are going to go and get the crate that's then going to be creepy in the back of the truck, which is completely cut out of this new movie. And I think the new movie is poor for it because that whole setup and that was really important. That was all possible because of those side characters. But I hear your criticism, but honestly, I I don't think for runtime you could keep that kind of stuff anyway.
yeah. See, that's the because with that subplot and stuff like that. Like, I get your points of they're trying to build out the town and stuff like that, and have other things go on. And I get that with the runtime that you need to kind of have stuff in there to kind of like kind of build, I guess, build up and stuff. My problem is that, like, I guess having a large runtime and then having that subplot of those characters does ruin the pacing a little bit, because the 2024 one, like, I get your point of kind of filling out the story or filling out the town a bit, but the 2024 one does really fills out the town quite well with the montage shot of him during, like, coming into the town and it being very active and very lively, and then having those shots of, like, the garage and the cafe or the diner and the milkman putting the stuff on
Yeah.
it fills out quite well what I guess the 79 the 79 one does with that subplot. Like, they're trying, because the main plot is essentially that Salem's lot has been taken over. They
Yeah.
needed to fill it out with more people. The only problem is, by having those two people and then essentially getting rid of them quite quickly, um I feel unfulfilled by that subplot, and also every time it comes up, it kind of comes up in a kind of full stop mode kind of thing.
Right.
Now, I can see with your point of the truck part, because obviously you need I think his name is Color, so the character's name is Sawyer, Color Sawyer. You need him to be, because he's the owner of the moving part. You need him to not be there so that you get Ned and Mike to go and get the thing. Which I do agree, that whole scene of the creepiness of the crate and stuff like that is missing from the 2024 one, because they
Yeah.
do it very quickly at the start. Um, but if you I don't think you need what probably is about a 20 to 25-minute subplot specifically to get a guy out of a truck.
Oh no, no, definitely. And I don't think it's. And again, I wouldn't say it's there to get the guy out of the truck. I was saying that more as the interweaving of all of those people. And I very much in the original understood everyone's relationship to everyone because they took their time to weave it all in. That subplot, and I'm with you. It's superfluous. It's not necessary. But it didn't take away anything from me because it wasn't about tension. That subplot was about, and this is the town, this is the gossip, this is the small town drama. So, and again, it's, two different people get two different things from the
Oh
same
yeah.
same movie. And I would agree with you on all the literal reasons why you definitely would get it out of there for the new one. So if we were writing the new one, I'd be like, well, it's the first thing to go.
Hmm.
But we would probably do it for different reasons, which is kind of funny. But it absolutely would be the same outcome of, yeah, we're not doing the sexy secretary 70s plot that they managed to keep in there. But I definitely would have fought to the death to say, but we actually need to keep building the tension, because
No,
the tension that we've lost because of some of that is that they actually still then didn't focus on the other characters that we have to talk about.
I definitely agree. Yeah, the tension. Like, I agree that the 2024 one doesn't build any kind of tension. It, like, well. I would say that it builds tension very quickly in the middle of the movie, which
Yeah,
isn't
kind of rushes
great.
to go, oh yeah,
Yeah,
we
which
forgot.
which isn't great, kind
Yeah.
of thing. But the problem is that I don't know what's worse for me is that I feel like the tension is building, and then I'm pushed into this subplot,
Right.
kind of thing, which takes me out of that tension kind of thing,
Gotcha.
or a very quick tension builds thing. I don't know which is worse for me, kind of thing, because it's like, yeah, yeah, that, and I
Gotcha.
think that's where, so the overall kind of vibe of the town and stuff like that. I would think that, weirdly, Salem's Lot 2024 is a little bit better at building the vibe of the town.
And
Uh,
thankfully, because we've been talking about this, that we've been dying to get to a point. That's the one thing I would 100% disagree on. I think the vibe of the town itself, because of the patience that's taken with, the crazy drunk guy whose name I can't remember, Squirrel or
yeah,
whatever his name is,
I
and
sadly
little
don't.
little hints of backstory. The lady that runs the B&B is, she used to be the sexy lady. Just they were dropping in things that made Salem's Lot a real place. And I don't think that, you know, the montage that you mentioned, they definitely say that we're in Jerusalem's lot in the new one, but they never build enough character for anybody to actually give me the vibe of it being a real place. Um, and I think Paul, and it's good that we disagree on something because it means that we can finally have one of those on the board. But I think we would both probably be able to say the big thing that's missing from the new one that maybe was one of the biggest parts for the old one was the vibe around the house's place in the town.
Okay, yeah. So to go to your point of I think that there's certain elements within the visuals that kind of build the town around it. I think with the other one, as we get more we'll get further into the character. I do want to go to the house and I just want to get this point out. I do think that because we get so ingrained with certain characters and certain characters then don't have fulfilling ends. I think the problem is that it makes the town seem like it's those six people.
Mm.
That's my only thing is as in if they had added in the 1979 one a little bit more kind of like sub shots of like or b-roll of essentially a other people in the town,
Mm.
I would definitely go like no 70 the 79 one did it perfectly. My
And
problem,
I think that's a really good criticism because you're right. It is like we've met all the people in the town, but
yeah.
literally all 12 of the people in the town. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, so but the house
Yeah,
part
yeah.
is probably one of my biggest gripes of the whole like not that's not true. It is one of my biggest gripes of the 2024 one. It's not the biggest. But I do agree that the house has such character in the first one. Like okay, so on screen right now you have the two houses. So the bottom one is the new 2024 one, the top one is the old the 1979 original one. They have the both same vibe and stuff like that
Hmm.
on the outside.
Yes.
Then that's it. That's completely the only comparison that works.
And I'm so glad you were specific about on the outside because there's two things about it. There's its place in the town and its interior that
Yeah.
go completely wrong. And its place in the town in the original, they go to great pains to show you the house from the town, from somebody's bedroom window. It's like this, the Marsden house is just omnipresent and hovering over everybody at all times. And it's got its old creepy history, and it's the haunted house in the hill. It is a central, it is the focus point of the plot. It's like what's going on up in that house, what happened in that house previously, what's going to happen, who's in there right now, and that's completely missing in this one, like almost completely missing. It's unfair to say completely, but the interior, good lord, talk about going from one of the great creepy interiors with the kind of, there's like dust and stuff. It's like the upside down in Stranger Things long before the upside down was done to whatever was in this new one. Like it was,
The
yeah,
craft.
they went to somebody's, like they went to Cracker Barrel or something. I don't know. They went to like old Americana IKEA.
It's the craft, and I get their points of trying to make it seem like it's kind of like I get it that because Barlow and Stryker are antiquers and they're going to sell antiques
Hmm.
and stuff like that. I get that they're trying to make the vibe kind of weird, creepy, and gothic, but that's the problem. Is like they have too much stuff already in the house for what they would suggest how long they've been there. But you're right. The exterior, there's such a imposing force of the house overlooking the entire. It's such a constant presence in the 1979 one that's really really good. But in the next one, because it's the whole reason one of the characters is entirely in the town,
Yeah,
kind of thing. And to your point of originally going, it's the bad guy for a good portion of of the story in the 1979 one, whereas it's literally an afterthought kind of thing in the new one.
right.
Um, but yeah,
I'm afraid we're at time, so we're going to
no
be
worries.
back in a second, I think.
Yeah, we'll be back with the ad break, so we can go on more about the house. Back in a sec. Hey, welcome back. Yeah, so which it takes two great friends of the show, and yeah, like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and all the doody do things.
Do the goodness.
Um, but yeah,
Paul,
back.
I want to just briefly, because we are going to talk about the house, I think, a little bit more for just 1 second.
Yeah,
But I want to briefly shout out to the comments because Bruce mentioned a few things here. He said the original was scary, it was a slow burn. And I think we have to call, we have to call things for what they are because it was a mini series, and we didn't let Zack Snyder away with making a 5 hour much better version than somebody else's 2 hour. Because if you have all the time in the world, you can do much more storytelling. So miniseries is longer, but I think in fairness, these are comparable as far as the job that both filmmakers were set out to do.
Yeah.
But it's harder to be a slow burn in a shorter amount of time. But I do agree that that's one of the great advantages of the first movie, and I think it's masterful at it.
Yeah.
And Brian says it's okay to be spoiled, and I'm bringing that up specifically because in a moment I want to spoil something, and I just want everybody to know because we're going to talk about the finale, but I'm going to foreshadow it by talking about the house in particular. But I want to call out Tim E here says the original Blue and the new one is somehow worse. It's great to know that there are people who've watched the original and didn't like it. Because I have I'm actually no, this is one of the few movies that I can honestly say, or few things in entertainment, that every time I've ever brought it up with somebody who's seen it, they're like, yeah, I'm not into horror, and I thought it was great, or oh, I'm into horror, it's a classic. Um, it's one of the rare exceptions to that whole. I've met somebody, I've met people who don't like Jaws.
Yeah.
I've met people who don't like Terminator 2. I've met people who don't like Aliens. I've met people who don't like some of what I consider some of the greatest films of all time.
Yeah.
But this is the first. So, Timmy, nice to meet you. It's good that somebody didn't like it.
Yeah. It's a
Because
good.
now I can complete that set.
It's a good perspective as well that we have, and also, but at least the new one is also worse, kind of thing. So
we
at
can
least,
agree on that also.
yeah. But yeah, to the house, back to the house. Yeah, it's such a character within the town and stuff like that. We talked about how the external is very similar, except for its imposing nature in the original 1979 one. Its subplot of essentially being evil and having a character drawn to it. That's the whole reason why one of the characters that we're going to talk about in a little bit is there. The internal part, yeah, it's the gothic nature of the new one I'm just not as fond of as the original. Kind of like, it's just dilapidated and weird. you know the new one is just like, yeah, it's not really dilapidated, it's more just a witch lived there and has somehow still done most of the upkeep, even though they haven't installed like any kind of like electricity or anything like that. So like, I definitely agree that the 2024 one didn't do a good job on essentially keeping the house as
I
a
have a
character.
theory as to why, and this is where the spoiler warning comes in. I think because the original used the interior of the house for so many key scenes, and that basement was such a huge part of it, and the bringing of the truck to, bring things down into the bulkhead and get 4 padlocks and padlock everything, and the finale having such a huge, the house being such a huge part in it, because of the changes they made to the story for, the new one versus the old one.
Yeah.
They weren't going back to the house for anything. The house was nowhere near as significant in their third act
No.
or their first act
No.
as it was in the original. So I think they just thought, let's get ourselves the veneer, let's get the fascia, let's get it. But that's not going to be the most important thing. Let's concentrate on our protagonist, which is what they did. And that would have been fine. And I don't think we'd be talking as much about the house if they hadn't also not concentrated on the people living there. As in, part of the reason the interior was so impressive in the original is because you're like, God, this is where your man Straker's been living. And, down here is where Barlo is being kept. That doesn't matter in the new one, not just because of the house, which they're not going to use, but also because they didn't bother focusing on the bad guys. You've got some of the great bad guys in the history of TV cinema, and they're an afterthought along with their flaming cool house. Like, what the is going on here?
Yeah, I think it's a good point to go towards character development and stuff like that, because we're going so close to that anyway. But yeah, like, so 1979 one's house definitely plays a bigger part and is more enjoyable as a character kind of thing. I think with talking about the house, I think we'll go to Ben Myers, the main character of the two of them. Um I definitely agree that I think that there wasn't as much focus on this character in the 2024 one as there was in the original. And I don't think that's due to time. I will not give it the excuse that there's an extra
Yeah.
hour on the new one or on the older one to be able to focus on characters. I do think that because they decided not to focus on the house in any kind of fashion, couldn't focus on some of the major plot points of Ben Myers' character within coming back to Salem's Lot and stuff like that. David Souls is plays the original Ben Myers. The new one is Lewis Pullman, who we've seen
Bill
quite a lot
Pullman's
actually,
kid
Ricky, and we're going to see him quite more because he was in Maverick and now he's going to be in
and
Thunderbolts.
Thunderbolts, and I
Yeah,
like him. Can I just jump out of the gate and say I really like him? And if I was going to say anything is better in the new than the old, David Soul was great, and David Soul was perfectly cast, and David Soul's performance I actually really thought suited the original Salem's Lot. I'd have no particular issue with David Soul. He's a nice guy, but I'm going to go ahead and say he's not the greatest actor in the history of time. But between him and the door on his Jeep CJ that wouldn't work, he nailed that original movie for a bit of grounding and feeling like it was really there and he was really there. But I thought Pullman was one of the standout kind of, hmm, you deserved a better movie around you. What did you think?
yeah, yeah. I agree. I think he played the part that he had really well.
Yeah,
I do think that there was more. I do think that he's even though he's meant to be one of the main characters, he's very much a side character in this kind of thing. You don't learn too much about him.
yeah.
You like everything you learn about him is talked by someone else. Um, the connection with the house is jested at, but in no
Mm.
way
It,
expanded
it did
upon.
feel like there was scenes cut out.
Oh, you're okay.
Yeah, sorry.
My summary part has got very much
Yeah.
that. But yeah, I think between the two characters, I do think that the David Souls' character development has a lot more to go for it. And as I said, I don't accept that runtime is a factor here. I definitely
Yeah.
think that they wanted to make a more fast paced story, and they felt that the background story of him being drawn to the house is completely moot in the sense that if you don't have the house, you don't need to talk about the
Yeah.
evil within and him being drawn towards it. So it's very
I,
disappointing.
it is. And I suppose the way I would summarize it is I think David Soul did a great job and the movie helped him.
Hmm.
Whereas I think uh, Pullman did a great job and helped the movie, if
Yes.
you know what I mean. One got elevated by the work they were in, the other one elevated the work they were in. So points would go to the new one on that if we were doing a leaderboard here.
Yeah, 100% agree on that one. Susan.
You can go first if you want. I'm just going to say the writing of the character in places was a bit of a mess. I think the performance though she nailed it. She absolutely, and again, we're starting with the people that I think really outshone their original counterparts. Don't get me wrong. To a lot of people, Holly Gennaro over there is going to be the one that they recognize her as John McClane's wife in a later movie. But that wasn't a particularly brilliantly written character either, but of much more consequence in the long term finale and much more, it was all very 70s love story anyway. But I was blown away. I'm like, actually, you know what? Even the chemistry between these two is great. She was from the very first scene. I thought, here's somebody who's actually bringing something to this movie. And again, much like Pullman, I think she brought the work up. Um, Probably really didn't deserve this to be the film that I first see her in because I know she's done other stuff, but I would look forward to seeing her in something else.
I get that. I think Bonnie Badella
Yeah,
is the
from
original
yeah,
Susan. I think that there wasn't there wasn't a lot of character there for a lot of it. I think um there was hints at it and stuff like that, and I do think which is I think just sadly of its time maybe that they felt that it wasn't as interesting to go further into her story. in the new one with Mackenzie Lee, I think that it was a really smart choice for me. I really love that they decided to remove the secretary from the 1979 one and replace it with Susan. I think that's a great spot, kind of, because I think the chance meet between Susan and Ben in the original one was
She's reading this book down by the river. It
it's
was it was very softcore 70s.
yeah, it's weird, kind of thing, but fine because they make it work with the interaction and the chemistry. But I think that it was more natural to meet her within the realtor kind of thing,
Yeah.
and I think her development over time of kind of being a person who wants to get out of the city or get out of the town kind of shone through with her attitude a lot more to compared to other people within the town kind of thing. I think with Ned and Mike being kind of the other two kind of people um of kind of note,
Mm,
um their attitude of just that's they're going to live in the town forever is completely contrast to Susan's in this movie.
yeah.
Whereas I think there's not enough of that kind of wanting to get out feeling uh from the 1979 Susan kind of
Yeah, there
thing.
was the whole job offer back in Boston, but then they didn't really. Again, I think
They
as a product of the time, I think they were.
I think they gloss over it a lot.
And also, Paul, I should ask at this point though, the one thing that the new movie does suffer from, because now we've talked about two of the two leads, let's
Yeah,
call them, that's what they should be, the two leads. But yet, did you feel that there were leads in this? You yourself said when it comes to, Pullman's character, like, was he ever even really the lead of this? I think that one of the big problems with the new one is the characters they did set up, they didn't really pick and say protagonist.
my
They just kind of moved around a bit.
my problem is that so in the original one, it felt like Ben is the main character, and then he's slowly surrounded by other characters that are all focusing on the same thing. Whereas I think
Yeah,
in the new one, there is one particular person that has main character vibes, and that is a big mistake that the 2024 one does. Kind of thing. So
to whom are you referring?
when we get to that character, I'll let you know because
Okay.
they're an interesting character. But yeah, between Ben and Susan in the original and the new one, I do think that the new ones play well better than they do in the original. But I do believe that Ben's character development is a lot better than the new one, and Susan's one is non-existent in both, but their actual performance in the 2024 one is better. But I do believe
Yeah,
that's a thing of the time,
yeah.
sadly, kind of thing.
And I can tell we're about to shift to our next bit, so I just want to jump to the comments and say that some great username, by the way. Greg, guitars and stuff. I do love guitars and stuff. So nice one, Greg. We got stuff in common. Uh, I enjoyed the early 2000s Salem slot, which also, by the way, since we're talking about cast, it had a killer cast. But I think since we're only comparing the 24 and 79, I'd love to know, Greg, if you're still on there with us, if you've actually seen
The
let's call
new
it
one.
the original or even the latest.
Yeah, that'd be a good shout. Yeah, so I think we're gonna go into one of the main bad guys. Striker. Yeah, I think we've already.
Supposed to be, supposed to be one of the
Yeah,
mains, Paul. Supposed to be like James Mason. When I think Salem's Lot, other than a creepy kid at my window, I thought of James Mason talking about the master will see you soon. Like he made the film creepy old Englishman, and even that shot you've used, the picture you've used, even just when he was driving into town, they would by it's like the shark not working in Jaws. The fact that they needed to sit close to him and had to kind of give a bit of a fisheye wide angle to make the camera in a car with him work, it was unsettling in and of itself.
yeah,
Everything about James Mason in the original was for me chef's kiss, pitch perfect. They set him up as the creepy, familiar, daytime butler man, whatever way you want to look at whatever your lore is for vampires. And he was just excellent at being creepy and excellent at being evil and unsettling. I don't know what this new attempt was. And I feel sorry for the actor because I can't blame him. Seen him before and stuff, he's fine. But from the second he was on screen, I'm like, please, no. Tell me this is not how badly this is going to go. And it kind of went worse than I thought, Paul, because in the end, they didn't even use his character. like they they half used his character and then dispatched of him. Spoiler, spoiler.
Yeah. No. So I agree. There's the striker in the new one is non-existent practically. He's a very quick vehicle to certain things, which is fine. But it's a waste of a character because we've got essentially a comparison, a benchmark to go against. Um, but yeah, it's
Just so you know, Greg says he hasn't seen the new one because he has no HBO, but he does say that James Mason's the ultimate villain. Thank you.
yeah.
Somebody
No.
out there gets it.
I
Good
definitely
man.
agree. So talking about the new one, which is their non-existent character, my biggest problem, other than the fact that they're a non-existent villain character in the movie, is that whatever direction they decided to take it, and I don't know if this was an actor's choice or a director's choice, but somewhere in their heads they got play creepy, and that's what they decided to try do. Whereas James Mason is just naturally creepy. So
Oh, he was told be English and play disdainful against these this colony that rejected you. Because there's a moment in the original where he walks out of a house and looks down and sees David Soul in that Jeep down on the main road. And it's the way he looks up at him and then sort of looks away and looks back. You're like, oh, I know that look.
yeah,
I've been in a rich area.
yeah.
Like, it was so natural for the guy. It wasn't just creepy, it was disdainful, powerful. It was everything you need from that Straker character. And what the shit did we get in this new one, Paul?
Yeah, the noble kind of character. Yeah, the new one, as I said, I just feel like he got in his head to play creepy because like the way that James Mason delivers the line of going to get the crate is really really good, and then his like get me four like heavy duty locks that I want you to lock
Yeah,
the bulkheads, the kitchen door, the outer door. You know, like he's very quick and kind of like precise and stuff like that.
very
Which
efficient.
yeah, which makes him seem very like when he says, "Oh, me and my partner," kind of
Yeah.
Barlo. It's kind of just like his efficiency makes him really seem like the butler,
Yeah.
and we
You've been
all
very
know.
helpful, Mr. Crockett.
Yeah,
Mr. Barlow will be sure to reward you. It's like I know what you're saying. We all know what you're saying.
yeah.
Don't you speak in that open out in front of us code, you evil bastard. They're all going to die because of you. And you get nothing from this new dude other
The
than, what are you trying?
the new dude gets Igor vibes. That's my problem, and that's not. It's not a good thing because,
No.
like, the scene inside the house that he's like, uh, he's like, I don't know. Yeah, spoilers. Yeah. Giving the
Yeah,
kid
it's all
to
spoilers.
yeah, giving the kid to Barlow. He's very like, yes, master. Whereas,
Yeah.
uh, there's a high society kind of butleriness to James Manson's Striker, which makes him so much more because it's classic butler evilness, kind of like, oh crap. Whereas this one, it's just like, yes, master.
Oh, he's Igor with elocution lessons. It's terrible.
Yeah,
And you're right. James Mason brings that, powerful kind of, I'm here. I'm partners with Mr. Barlow. He's my associate. We're doing this to you.
yeah.
And he's his butler, but not his henchman. He's his familiar, but not his slave. And you don't get that from New
Yep.
Dude. Oh, it makes me so angry
Yeah,
because
which is a pity
they're
because
the reason that the original worked.
yes, which is really good points towards the house and him being essentially the villain for the first half. Whereas in this one, there's no villain.
No villain.
There's no villain for the first half.
Nope.
Kind of thing.
No.
On the second half, though, Barlow, uh, is the villain for both movies. Kind of thing. He is.
Yeah.
I will because I know we're gonna have to speed up a little bit. Barlow is an omnipresent character within the first original one in 1979. He is consistently referred to in several
Yes.
ways. He is referred to in such a air of distinction that makes him seem like some kind of deity person,
Yep.
which is very good towards what the plot is trying to portray, kind of
Yes.
thing. Um, in the 2024 version, he is a mysterious character, but
Mm.
that's it.
Yeah.
Whereas that's my problem. Like in the 1979 one, he is constantly referred to with some kind of revelry or reveredness, kind of thing, uh, which is very good parallel plotting in the sense of like the people of the town are like, oh, when is he getting here? And then obviously James
Yeah.
Mason says like, oh, he'll be here very soon, and
Oh,
you're
you
just like,
just wait for our third act, and
yeah,
you're going to get Barlow right up the wazoo here,
yeah.
buddies.
And it's such a nice parallel of going, these are people who are interested in meeting a new person coming to their town who has a backstory and a history that they haven't experienced before, kind of
Yeah.
thing, and they're looking forward to it. Whereas the other side of that coin is Stryker going, yes, you'll meet him
Oh,
soon.
you'll,
Yeah,
and
kind of.
he'll find you quite delicious.
Yeah, kind of thing, which is a really nice parallel. Whereas
Mm.
in the next one, in the 2024 one, he is just a mysterious character. Um,
Yeah. Can I ask you a question? Because the spoiler warning for the whole movie, by the way, folks, because I think
yeah,
we got to just call that out there. But also, anybody new to our channel, Paul's the horror expert. I think you're below me this week.
yeah,
And you're running the stream because you are the horror expert, and you really are. It's awesome. But one of the few things that I can say that I know, because we've talked about this enough, you don't just go and show your villain at the start. You don't show your big creature. You don't start off Jaws by showing the shark, whatever it might be. I'm not using Jaws for any particular reason. But having him be an omnipresence, as you said, referred to, built up, it's brilliant. It's like, oh God, when this Barlow guy shows up, we know that shit is hitting fan. This is going to be awesome. You don't have that sequence with them bringing the truck. The whole audience knows what's in the back of the truck in the first one. It's like, that's obviously Barlow. He's obviously a vampire. This, they're touching the crate cone. This thing's freezing cold. Then it starts moving towards the front of the truck by itself. You've met Barlow without seeing Barlow at that point.
yeah,
They bring him in under the house. You've met Barlow without seeing Barlow at that point. This one, like they just show up, chuck him in a basement, break a bit of the box, and all of a sudden that makes one of the guys, be possibly slightly in a trance. And then they're like, oh, but before we leave the room, let's give you a quick flash of his face. The opening scene of this new movie actually shows you the face of Barlow
yeah.
for a few frames. I like, again, I'm deferring to your expertise because I'm sure there's good horror film reason to do this, but not in my meager understanding. That seemed like a huge, huge, huge fucking mistake.
It's to build intrigue, and I get the method. I in this purpose, it wasn't a good idea. Kind of
Shit.
thing. I think yeah. The trance thing I will say is done better in the 2024 one, but that's because of graphics,
Yeah.
CGI visuals and stuff like that. No, I get their point of trying to the method is essentially to build intrigue. There's a creature in the basement, kind of thing, and it's meant to intrigue you. The problem is that Salem's Lot is known as a vampire movie, so like when you show essentially this weird like yellow-dyed kind of creature in the basement of some creepy house that hypnotizes one of the guys, uh, modern day people are automatically going to jump to the conclusion that he's a vampire. So the method is valid, but within the context of this, it shouldn't have been done. They should have
Why show
continued.
him?
But that's yeah. I why not build them up? Why not just have the box in like have them deliver the box and then that's it. Just walk out. Kind of if they're not going to use Ned and Mike to a full degree, they don't even call it.
Yeah.
Mike's not even involved in that one. But
Yeah.
if they're not gonna involve them and kind of being like the creepiness of the coldness and just all that, just have them drop it off and have them go on and just be like that was weird and that's it. Then
Yeah.
continue on with the omnipresence of essentially Bardo being a mysterious character from a foreign lands that people are kind of intrigued from the small town kind of thing. you can build that up the same way that you do in the original one, kind of thing. You just don't have the inevitable kind of like creepy deliverance in kind of in the middle, which adds to the tension of, oh, I think Barlo has arrived, and Barlo's arrived in a crate, which the 1979 one does really well.
Yeah.
So, I will say that uh the look and feel of Barlow in both films is similar. There's no real overly difference to them. I don't feel. I do like the 1920, or sorry, the 2027's speaking.
The newer one.
Yes,
Okay.
I like the visuals of the 1979 one. I think he's very creepy, and that's because I am a big fan of prosthetics and kind of like practical visuals and stuff. I do like the character of Barlow in the next one, in the 2024 one, a little bit more than I do in the original one, or because he's a bit of a speaking character, and it makes it,
Kind of.
yeah, but he also speaks through people a lot more,
Mm.
because he's referred back in that whole trance thing. He's referred back to a little bit more. Um, because we in Mike's character where he's being creepy Mike, he does go, Barlow wants to meet you and stuff like that. Whereas
Yeah.
in the original one, Mike, which is a lot more of a creepy scene with him on the rocking chair,
Yeah.
doesn't refer back to him. He just he's like, oh, I feel stronger and more, and it's just like, cool. The transformation part you're explaining is really, really nice, but for modern day kind of audiences that have had history of vampire transformations and stuff, they know that people feel nice. So having Mike refer back to Barlow really is interesting. To meet you, teacher guy, is really good, kind of thing.
How did you feel about what they did with, and again, spoiler warning for the entire, they changed the final fight. Let's just call it the final fight. So we know they moved away from the house. Um, and I'll say this much for the drive-in that they chose. I thought clever move. Once I saw all the cars there, I was like, vampires wouldn't bother driving cars. Oh, very good. Yeah, liked it, and I'm gonna try and not spoil some stuff here. But as far as the actual fight and dispatching of Barlow in the end, I thought it was some of the weakest sauce I have ever had on my weak sauce. It was the least spicy chicken wing available to man.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So just quickly, so for visuals, that's Creepy Mike. So top one is old 1979's Creepy Mike, and the new one Creepy Mike. So I definitely think that the new one is better. Sorry, the old one is better as Creepy
Oh,
Mike.
much.
Kind of thing. To your point of the so in the original one it's the house, in the new one it's a drive-through. I liked the idea of the drive-through. So spoilers again, that the drive-through cars were the coffins. Like that idea.
Mm.
I do
And even the
think,
drive-in screen being, the shadow. I
yeah,
liked,
there
that whole thing.
there was a good
I'm like,
usage.
okay, you screwed the house, but I'm fine now. I wasn't fine. I'm like, I'm slightly happier to know why you screwed the house. Looks like you've got your own idea going on here. Let's see how you do with this.
There's a good usage of the drive-through, but it's,
Until there isn't.
well, on I don't think the drive-through really kind of affects the outcome of the climax of the film.
No.
I do think that it is the 2024's climax of the death of Barlow, spoilers, is not as good as the original, but I also think the original one is slightly weak as well.
Well, I get
You
I get
know,
that, but that's because they knew they were going to do the one thing that this didn't do, which is years
the
later
carry on, yeah,
in
yeah,
Guatemala or wherever they were,
yeah. No,
which I think is key to the whole
the
epicness of them, him and Mark being on the run.
yes, the classic kind of not everybody is dead kind of thing, because of the master's death kind of thing is good. But I do think that both deaths of Barlow are slightly anticlimactic. I will say, because they do such a build up in the new one with him being so strong and powerful and everything like that, it is bad. It is so much worse than the 1979 one. kind of
Yeah.
thing. I do think that it is anticlimactic, and I think it's because of the build up.
The 1979 one was a TV movie, TV miniseries. They couldn't do some things. Like they've got a list of reasons why, because it was still quite the climax, just maybe not the the best final death moment slash scene slash whatever.
Yeah.
But this one, like I put it up there in the top 10 anticlimactic final boss kills ever for me. I was like, are you serious? Are you serious that he's going to be reaching through a hole trying to get the kid? And next thing you know, it's just going to be like, oh, poke him in the back of the head and kill
Yeah.
him. And
No.
that's it. And it was just, it was, it was insulting. I
It,
felt really annoyed that I'd watched the movie at that point. I'm like, really?
I
All that for this?
Yeah, no, and I do think it's the build up before that of his power and stuff like that to have him essentially snuffed off so easily. But I do like the only saving grace of the original one's kind of death of Barlow is the brutalness of the killing, I guess, is the only saving grace to the anticlimacticness of it as well.
Yeah.
As in, like, I think both of them are anticlimactic. I think that the 1920 the 1979 one is less uh is more satisfying because of the brutal nature of his death, even within the confines of a TV movie. I
Yeah.
think that the 2024 ones anticlimactic is less is more of a letdown because of its build up towards the strength of Barlow, which is the problem. And I think that and it being like we need to get this over with and clean and done. I think that's the problem
Yeah.
that I have with it.
It was like
So
someone called time and they're like, right, finish your drinks. We got to get out of here.
yeah, talking about finishing your drinks, gonna blast through some
Mhm.
characters. The cop guy, non-existent in both of them really.
Yeah, you know what? A character I enjoy in both because they served a purpose, and I think both did well.
Yeah,
That's it.
the cop in the new one is
I love
a
that actor.
he is in a lot of Stephen King movies. He's
Yeah,
in Shawshank Redemption. He's in The Green Mile. He's in quite a few of them.
he's a fantastic actor too.
Yeah. The priest, Father Deacon.
You can go.
So non-existent character in the original one.
Yeah.
I liked what they did in the new one.
Did you?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they they played him up as a character who is losing his faith, and then having essentially that standoff with Barlow as like, and the line like, it's such a pity to see a person lose faith is such a nice
Yeah.
one. Whereas in the original one, the priest is a non-existent character. Like we don't even get to see the showdown kind of thing. So like I'm a little bit more disappointed in the original one's character,
I get you.
but in no way is that in any way weighted towards the betterment of the movie or anything like that. Kind of
Yeah.
thing. As a person with the novel, the 2024 one does a better job. But as I said, we're not talking about kind of the novel adaptations. I just feel that he's a more fleshed out character in the new one than he was in the original one. But in no way does that kind of
I give it to you.
add to it. The doc, father of Susan, and the doctor, the both interesting characters. I enjoyed both of them's quick to believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
The new one is a lot more funnier, I guess.
I thought she's brilliant. Alfred Woodard.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I love her and stuff anyway. Everybody recognizes her. She's one of those actresses nobody knows her name, but she's in fucking everything. I was like, yeah, this is cool, great. And even the whole kind of rabies shot angle, I thought, okay, you're trying something new. It's not something that I would choose myself as something to add in, but you know what, you did it. I think she classed the joint up, as I like to say. I think her performance classed the joint up a bit. It's another one of those people I'm like, sorry, you didn't get the good Salem slot to be in because you deserve better.
Yeah. Agreed. Ed Flanders plays Dr. Bill in Norton in the original one. Ed Flanders, a great name.
I know. I every time I see it in the credits, it's like Ed Flanders, Simpsons. Sorry.
Strong secondary characters, though. I do that.
Mhm.
Mike, non-existent in the new one. A big harsh person in the.
Huge,
You're
huge
actually
part in the original.
I'm actually sad to see Mike get done in.
Mm.
In the new one, he is just I don't care.
Yeah,
Just to run through that.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, you agree with that? You think that Mike?
yeah.
Yeah,
No, I'm with you. I think Mike was just such a big part of the original, and was given a proper little character arc to go with it, that you cared and it worked. And the same thing, I can't see on your screen yet, but are you going to the teacher next?
yes. Both of these characters are great.
Yeah.
This is the first time I can say this is an equal running of both characters.
And the two characters that you've left are both the characters that I think I'm gonna agree with that statement on. But yeah, it definitely applies here.
Oh, interesting.
Well, no, it's and just to stick with the teacher for a moment, I think one was played for age. I really enjoyed. It's like, you're nobody's going to believe you if you say this. You're going to be treated as crazy old man. They didn't lean into that with the new character and new actor, but it had that same vibe, and the camaraderie between Ben and him worked very well in both sets, both movies.
Yeah. Um,
Are
Mark.
you are you going to Mark? Yeah, okay. So you're going to Mark. This is one where I thought the original did it better. What did you think?
I think that his plot in the original was confusing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's a good character. Not a bad character in the original. I do think that the new one, the 2024 one, they show a strength there in his introduction moment. Whereas in the introduction of Mark as the original movie, it's not as well played out, kind of thing. Um, but that's where the entire things. Mark in the original one, although they don't establish him being as a strong kind of person of knowledge and also character, kind of thing. He's good. He's great all the way through. I like him.
I,
The
I see what you're saying, and just to this is it's again. I love it when we both watch something and get something different from it. The new Mark
Yeah,
is in a schoolyard fight, and it's like he stands up for himself. They do exposition to show that he knows things, and that there's him with his flashlight in a bed at one point that I was like, oh God, we're teaching a dumb audience. Fuck this. But him as a character, they made it very. You're right. They were very clear in the first one. I liked it because they did, and again, this is all just in what you take out of it, or maybe just personally how you connect with a character. For him, it was gas to me that his it was his interaction with his dad that kept happening to show that he had resolve and strength, that he knew he was a bit different, that he was into monsters and into all these things,
yeah,
that he had a knowledge, he had a knowledge base that wasn't shoved down our throat, but his kind of ability to stand up to pressure was clear in how he kept interacting with his dad, going, "Hey, son, couldn't you just be a bit more normal?"
yeah.
Which was the way things were done back in the 70s.
We're gonna go to a second break, I think.
Oh,
Um,
great.
because I think we're gonna run out of time soon. So we'll be back in a second to talk more, Mark.
Excellent.
Back to Mark. We didn't plan this to go this long, but we are.
No, but good news is we're going along for a reason. I love your take on the two marks. Because I recognize it and it makes sense to me what you're saying, which is, that I get where you're coming from. And I think it's just fascinating for me that for the very same reasons I'm coming from somewhere else. And again, I think the actor, for starters, just to be clear, I think the actor did a great job. I think they rounded the character out in more of a, how should I put this? There was more modern filmmaking, treat your audience a little bit. Um, I'm not going to say they treat us like dumbasses, but there was a bit more of the modern filmmaking that annoys me, or some of the elements of it that annoy me that were applied to that character
I
that weren't actually applied elsewhere in the movie. That the weirdness of how the kind of the 1979 was made kind of worked for me better. Um, but again, it's all of its time.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So I think that the 2024's introduction to Mark is better than the original, but I think that overall the character from the 1979 one is a better character, and this is the character that I think has main character vibes. The new one,
Yeah,
because they make him Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
which I honestly I did not like. That's why I
He
like the original Mark. It's
yeah
he's not like I'm gonna avenge my friend. I'm also the guy who remember when they introduced me, I stand up to everything and I am essentially fearless.
yeah
And the original Mark was a character of, well, I'm just trying to be me, and but I can't turn away from things that I am. A real representation of I am who I am, inner self-confidence rather than outer punching self-confidence. Like, and for starters, they're not the same character because only one of them ends up taking out one of the co-main villains just randomly. You know when he kills Straker in the new one?
yeah
I was like, really? He's
oh
just okay, so he just whacked him.
yeah
And we're done. So they are just buffying that kid and away he
yeah
goes. Whereas the other kid is like, I'm burdened with knowledge and integrity, and I gotta do this, and I'm scared, and this is all messed up. And the kitchen scene with his parents meant something because you'd met his parents. Whereas this new guy, it's like, well, Buffy's in the room with his parents and they're dumbasses, so they're gonna get killed, and Buffy Junior's gonna be out of here.
yeah no like this is where I he has the strongest main character vibe in the new one than anyone else.
I get you now. Yeah.
That's my and it's not a good thing. He is the highest body count in the entire movie in the 2020. Like, as in, he kills the most
Yeah.
vampires, he kills the most people. Yeah, because he knocks
Yeah.
down the screen and kills like all of them in.
That's yep.
So
That's
like,
true.
which is it's not a good thing that it completely makes Ben completely pointless, apart from the
Yeah.
fact that he's an adult, you know, and he's slightly stronger, you
Yeah.
know.
And they
Um,
even allude to that in one of the scenes, actually. Because he's like, you're like 11, and he's like, yeah, 11 and three quarters, but it's like, shit,
yeah,
G.I. Joe's here. What am I even doing here?
yeah, it's like it's very yeah, he's too much of a strong kind of main character vibe, which in the original one he has a parallel plot that goes along with the rest of the characters, and eventually they can join, which is really
Hmm.
nicely done. Um, whereas this one, he bursts into the church and is literally just like, "Gotta kill vampires, get out of my way, bitches," you know, and it's just like, okay, who are you? Like, and I get that their point of him being so abruptly entering the room and being just like, I know vampires, is to actually force the priest, Father Deacon, to join the fray.
Yeah.
But it's such a lackluster way of doing it. Um, that is one point difference. I do like the way that the original priest is introduced to the vampire problem, which is Barlo
Yeah.
straight there,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
whereas this one there's a little bit more of a build up, or a little
Yeah.
bit more of a abrupt entry into it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Mark's introduction from 2024, just to summarize, Mark's 2024 introduction is better than the original to me, but Mark is a better, in the 1979 one, he is a better all round character with a better plot and character development.
Gotcha.
You know,
Gotcha. Look, either way, they're just it's so different. It's a different take. Which again, I'd like to be very clear here. I love that they should do their own thing. I'm gonna eat my own soup here, and I'm always saying, hey, look, if you're remaking, reimagining, whatever the phrase they want to use these days is, I do your own thing. I don't mind if you stray from previous material and go your if you're taking the name, you're taking the premise, and you're gonna go your own way and do things. Fine. The drive-in movie relocation is a good example of doing that. What they did with Mark, it's just a different take. Not having it go off to was it Guatemala, I think, or it was at the very least South Mexico, maybe.
yeah,
Um, not having that kind of surrogate father-son relationship kind of implied then between, your two main protagonists on the run, whereas which was a nice parallel between the Straker Barlow kind of, it was a 2-on-2 in a town almost coming from different ways.
Yeah.
It went their own way. But overall, Paul, just overall, there was so much. We have not talked about any of the reasons why Salem's Lot actually affected people so much. It was that it was slow, it built, it had some visuals that were incredible. It was a masterpiece in TV filmmaking.
Mm.
The new one had some brilliant shots,
Yes.
but it's not a movie that anybody's going to remember past, an hour to 3 hours after they've watched it. Like one of these is TV movie, the other one is DVD bin.
Well,
It's like, Salem's Lot's going to last forever, and it's not going to be the 2024 one.
I think so. Yeah, I think Salem's Lot is the 1979 one. I think that's a thing. I don't agree that this is a forgettable movie. I think that there is some elements in this that are done better than the original kind of thing. But I do think that the reason that is because that they knew it was going to be a movie, and they
Mm.
knew that there was some things that they needed to get across, which is like so. The plot is that Barlow's coming to create a colony of vampires. I think that filling out the town and making that kind of more apparent is better done in the 2024 one than it is in the original.
Although, did you not cringe when it's like there's vampires on his roof?
But that's the thing. This with the part when he comes out of the church, I actually have
Yeah,
that visuals. Really tells
I hated
more.
that.
See, that's the thing. That to me,
Even
that
for the film they were making, because there's two things here. There's comparing them, and then there's looking them at it as individual films. And as an individual film, do you think that Salem's Lot 2024 is actually a memorable film in and of itself?
I think
Like
there's
without the other
I
ever
think there's
existing.
elements of it that are very memorable. Yes.
Oh, that's good. Well, because there's definitely a couple of nice shots, but okay. Because
Um,
I'll be honest, I'll probably have it completely forgotten by this time next Thursday.
which is fine. That's different of opinions kind of things.
Yeah.
But I do think that the plot of essentially building the colony is better portrayed visually and stuff in the new one than it is in the old one, and I think that ties back to because they're so integrated, so intimate character development and character understanding from the original one that you feel that there's only five people in the town. Whereas I think in the new one, to its problem, because they don't kind of stay with too many characters and kind of give you more in depth, they're able to be just like there are more people in this town.
Mm.
As I said, that montage at the start to show that the town is vibrant, and then they have that montage again where it's empty. Really tell, and then it really tells towards the slow, the sinisterness of like the disappearance of people and them transforming. The problem is that once again in our point of tension is built better over time than it is very quickly in the middle.
And I love that because we obviously we agree 70% in this, but Brian's in the chat saying Abigail's the best vampire movie of the year. Um, but you know what? It's rare for me and you to have be even this far away on something, which is beautiful. I love it because we're always saying can't wait to get more things where we are actually further apart. And I think the further apart thing for me, just to what you're saying, because I hear it, I get it, and I feel it for you. And here's my, similar take for me. It's the same but completely different because I'm like, the original gave me 12 characters and then took them all away. And that's how the entire world was going to be taken over by vampires. And that's why people are on the run. So the idea of nameless, faceless lights in the fog or there's vampires on the roof, I'm like, this is a bunch of people. Like, yeah, I understand it's a bigger town. I understood it was a bigger town on a TV movie budget in the first one, but I felt you've shown me everybody, and you've shown me them all be done in, or taken, or transformed, or I got the feeling of how it was going to spread from the first one. I got it in a hurry from the second one, but I didn't give a crap because I wasn't worried about Barlow. I wasn't worried about this spreading across the world. I wasn't worried about it spreading around the town. I'm like, "Yeah, okay." And it's great that we both on that one point that, you know, the thing that worked for you is the exact thing that worked in the exact opposite way for me in the first one. So that's cool. You know, I wonder how much of that is because it's not difference as people. Is it difference as time when you watched it or whatever it might be? But even at my most recent rewatch, I'm like, yeah, I know that this is taking everybody I know in this movie. And I know everybody in the town in this movie because I've been given a representation of every type of person. And when the cop is running with his family,
Hmm.
it's short scene, but it's like, yeah, this town, we're abandoning it because it's done. The spread is going to happen. I'm going to get as far away as I can while there's still some time. And that's why, I cringed when she's like, "Yeah, we're not going in. There's vampires on the roof over there." I, I think I might have even said out loud, "Seriously," because it turned this what was a movie with a lot of promise and some beautiful shots and some big mistakes up to that point into okay, I think I know. I think I know what I'm watching now. And as it turns out, it was. So there's a lot in the new one for me to like, but the reason it's forgettable is because there was nothing in it that made it lastingly, forebodingly, memorably ugh. But I genuinely, I'm so glad that we've both rewatched these recently, or rewatched the original and the new one
Yeah.
recently, because it's so cool that I can rule out the fact that it's my childhood trauma. Because that fact isn't part of the childhood trauma. It's all the other stuff that we thankfully haven't discussed. Thank you very much for not discussing the trauma inducing scenes.
Oh, we're going to that next.
Oh shit.
But yeah, to go to your point of, I knew that the rest of the town in the original one, I know that I like, you know, we know that the rest of the town are also being turned and stuff like that. My problem is that because we've become so in depth with certain characters,
Mm,
that it just feels like it's a very small place. But
completely get it. I
I will say
completely
that
get
it's
it.
a more the original one has, I guess the best way to describe it is, the original one feels more like a living town, whereas the new one feels like there it's more filled,
Yeah, I complete
you know.
like I 100% get you. And usually I'd be on your side with this because how many times I've complained about the Skywalker problem in Star Wars? It's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. We're
Yeah.
going to look at this one small neighborhood.
Yeah. We're gonna look at these five
So
people, and that's who we're following. It's just like there's billions of people. There's not a story
it's
we
a
can.
massive galaxy, but
Yeah,
exactly only these 18 people, whatever. Like Boba Fett, I'm like, yeah, he's a dude there for a minute, and we're okay. No, so usually I would be with you. This one, I think we both explained why we're, but I don't think it actually affects our enjoyment as much as maybe just our opinion. Because I think I find this film enjoyable up to the point that it kind of wasn't, and I'm assuming for you, from listening to what you've said, you also have that feeling of a missed opportunity to this one,
overly
the new
over.
one.
Yeah, overall, 2024, there's a missed opportunity. I think the place probably within the story where they lost me a little bit more was probably further on than it was for you.
Mm.
As in, the climax of the film was very much me going, yeah, okay, you know. Whereas I think you probably, yeah, the vampires on the roof of the house may have like, you know, picked you over the edge kind of thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, going into some classic visual stuff here. So first of all, I'm gonna do the 2024 ones that I really liked, which
Go
is
for it.
specifically the Glick brothers walking in the woods silhouettes,
The ridge scene. Yeah.
classic, and then having,
It was just so sweetly done.
yeah, and then classically having Striker appear behind them out of nowhere. Great kind of visual scene. And then a callback to Nosferatu. Because there was a lot of actually Easter eggs in the 2024 one. But the
Yeah.
callback to the Nosferatu one, which is him standing on the top of the drive-through with the cinema projector light.
Backlit. Yeah.
So good. Really enjoyed that callback kind of thing. Um, I didn't actually take a picture. The crosses.
The glowing crosses.
I really like that because that's such a deep ingrained part of vampire mythology that I really like that they decided to go with it. Because I
Mm.
think that the only other one that I ever know about is like where in Van Helsing, the Hugh Jackman Van Helsing thing, where Dracula grabs the cross and it lights up, and then kind of thing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't know many other ones that have the gigantic torch crosses. Um,
Yeah, I'm trying to think, and yeah, I think you might be right. Like, it's implied in a lot of places, but it's more rare that it's visually
it,
demonstrated.
it's
Actually, yeah,
striking, which I enjoyed. I
yeah.
enjoyed very much. But onto the trauma inducing.
God, I hate you. Yeah, so like we've gone extra long in this episode, and you're not letting me out of here until I deal with. Look, it's and I can't quite yet see what you have on screen, so you'll have to
Doing
give
it
me a
now.
little shout.
Just doing the full now.
Okay. Well, if what you're seeing on screen is a kid tapping at a window, and then you'll notice one of the most unsettling things about the kid floating into a room and attacking his brother, it's that if you look closely, the smoke is all moving weirdly. And it's moving weirdly for the simple reason that they actually did this and they shot it, but it's played in reverse. So everything you're seeing is smoke being pulled away rather than being pushed forward. And there is like for 1979, at a TV movie budget, that is impressive. It just the fact that the child actor actually did as well as he did to make it seem convincing in the forward motion. Like holy cows, it's up there with because the tapping on the window,
Yeah,
that's creepy. It's not something that you want. You don't want a dead friend, dead brother showing up going, "Let me in." That's classic scary. But then to have that be the visual of how it all played out when you're transfixed in this trance,
yeah,
that I'm gonna just go ahead and say it. We're probably age restricted
yeah,
already. That fucked me up for years.
yeah. I get that.
It just did.
To the new one, this is one part of the new one, which I will say that the visuals were quite well. It's very short because I didn't want to get striked. But I'll play it again. There we go. Very striking. Very took cues from the original one, kind of thing. But I do agree that the new one, sorry, the old one has is a strikingly more kind of creepiness to it, and I do think that the reverse thing is good. I do think that the one part that I do think that the new one did well, which I think it did better,
Mm.
was with the original Glick brothers. I think it's Danny. Hit the harmonica where they give him the
Oh yeah, yeah.
harmonica
Nice
to
touch.
it's a beautiful touch and it's so creepy. But the
And
rest of it,
and using the turn to the seesaw at the same thing where you find the reappearance of the harmonica and then the seesaw. You're like, I can see that I could feel that these guys were trying to use visuals.
yeah,
Like every 20th shot in this is one you're like, wow, that's actually really good. The problem is that it's every 20th shot. Um,
well,
Cohesively overall, it just wasn't as well. It wasn't as from a cinematographic. God, I hate trying to say that word. Point of view, it hit a level
mhm.
and then went up quite a bit, but it didn't stay up. Whereas I think the original built in air and then using the materials available so they managed to keep that air going.
Yeah. So to go on to the because we're going to go to a summary kind of thing. To go on, I think that only the harmonica part was the interesting part. I don't think because the seesaw thing is
Okay.
overdone. It's such a trope. I hate it.
But you could, I like I say, at least I could see they were trying visuals. They were thinking.
They weren't. They picked it out of a library of horror movie tropes and decided to do it. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. That's
fair enough.
I will be
No, fair enough.
very critical about that part. The harmonica part, beautiful. Really enjoyed it. It's creepy as harmonicas are creepy as hell anyway at certain points in a time just because they're high pitched voice wind instruments kind of thing. But the rest of that scene was just I get you're trying to do something new, to try and make yourself different from the
Yeah.
original, but come on, who you playing with? Kind of thing. But yeah, to a summary. I think we can both agree that the original is the winner out of the comparison.
For me, far superior if we're going to do comparison,
Yeah.
but not as far superior as I was expecting. So I'm surprised at how much credit I can give the new one, but it's still not good enough.
No, I would agree there. I do think that there's things that it did better visually. I think and I don't think that's entirely because of the age. I don't think 20 because of 2024. I don't think the visuals were like in any way kind of better done because of graphics or CGI or anything like that. I believe that there was an idea and they executed those visuals really well. I think the plot tension pace wise is weaker, way weaker.
Significantly.
Yeah, I do think that there's a subplot in the original one that could have been cut out. I don't know why it's there. It ruins the tension in certain parts. It doesn't ruin it overall. It ruins it for certain parts. And I think you
Yeah,
agree that that subplot
we
could,
we covered it earlier on.
yeah,
Yeah,
could be removed. Kind of thing. I will say that it feels like there's a better movie in there. I think so. What you nearly stepped on. I think that there's a director's cut version of the film that could really make this a lot better. I think that there might be a lot more scenes that might fill out a lot more stuff in the new
Hmm.
2024 one, which could make it equal with the original. But we
I
will
will
never know.
say, I will say the I agree that there are. It feels like there are scenes that are cut. I think there's an extended version of this that could make it better, but I think it has too many fundamental flaws that it will never be better than the original. And those flaws are very much based on they just completely crapped on not having protagonists and not dealing with the dark evil. The Straker Barlow house triumvirate that was perfect. They no matter what you add back in, they shattered and pissed away that opportunity. So I think the best they can do with more scenes is probably strengthen the protagonist storytelling. I think for me the story weaknesses are likely to be unrecoverable when it comes to putting it anywhere even in the same end of the map as the original for me. But again, I'm loving that we finally have a difference of opinion.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. It's taken 5 years. We finally found something.
So yeah, so which is yeah, I think that's our comparison. Which is if you liked it, I know we ran long. If you liked it, let a comment down below. Which is about how you thought of the comparison. What do you think of the two movies as well? Is there a better? Should have we done the 1987 or the 2004 one? But which could let us know then in the comments down below. Like, subscribe, ring that notification bell. You'll be really happy to share us out. It is Spooktober, so we will continue on with the horror themes. Yeah. So, anything else you want to add there?
No, my friend, I was just going to make sure that you got a Spooktober out there because I wouldn't have been happy without it. No, I would love to hear. I'd love to hear what people want. Spooktober is a big deal for us because this is Paul's month of extreme expertise and t-shirts. So yeah, get into our comments. Let us know what you want to see, what you think. This is probably going to be our longest episode ever, Paul.
Yeah, probably. Hopefully, we'll cut it down a little bit. But all right. Thanks very much for watching. I've been Paul,
I've been Patrick.
and we've been here at Site. We'll talk to you next Thursday.